You say you don't call on Google Hangouts. You don't breathe into the mic. You don't go respond to those work emails, and you don't mess around with, don't mess around with Jim. I think you're right. I think you're right.
You think it's time?
It's time. I don't know. That was a continuation of the era of the 500 stones when we spent so much time on the list, and now this is other than draft window, this is the only thing that we're doing. We're getting new audience members, so
yeah, guys, welcome back to the Turntable. Rest in peace to the theme song. We're gonna work on a new one. If you were wondering what we were talking about,
I'll get in some bagpipes to give it a proper send off.
Oh God, no! Actually, I'm down for that. Our audience, however, rest in peace to your headphones.
Yes.
Welcome, as I said, welcome back to the Turntable. This is episode 27. We're in the middle of season 3, and if we look at the records so far, I'm not doing that great this year. Brooklyn, on the other hand, you're doing a lot better than you did last year.
Yes, I'm doing a lot better than I did last year. I have learned, I wouldn't say to pander, but I guess kind of pandering, knowing my crowd and not trying to. The only thing that I have to fix, and I still think about it to this day, is for some reason, every time that we have Scott on, I decide, let's try a new Canadian independent artist. And then I just guess I get hacked. Death by 1,000 cuts for that duration.
And those cuts are all by a machete.
Yes, pretty much. But no, these albums that we're talking about today, like we were talking about last month, how that was 4 very distinct voices in folk rock and in that decade of 70s, 80s, and whatnot. This is 4 very distinct voices, and these guys all would have come around the same time, with the exception of one. I think there are 3, when you think of spoilers, hard rock and subgenres around that. I think we have 3 people in that conversation.
Oh, absolutely. And for anyone watching, if you're looking at the depending on where you are, basically the title of this episode, you'll know that this is a very rock-heavy episode. So, with that being said, we obviously have 2 rock heads on the panel with us today. 2 of our favorite guests.
Yeah, and we initially didn't have these guys paired, and then I think it was, I guess we'll bring in Jeremy first, because we were let's get Jeremy in.
Jeremy, what's up, buddy?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, glad to have you back. Last time we had you on, we had you talk about folk rock and pop and a whole bunch of other things. The moment we talked about pairing you up with the next panelist, we were like, oh yeah, we already know what this episode's basically going to be. So please tell us, what did you bring to the table today?
I brought The Darkness, Permission to Land, because why not?
I'm not going to lie, you dropped this in the chat, and I immediately went, yes!
Well, I had something else lined up, and then I don't know, my brain was hold on a second, and then I was like, no, this is great. It's 40 minutes, and it's perfect. Let's do this.
And let's bring in our other panelist. We have him every year, sometimes multiple times in a year. He's one of our favorite panelists. It's Jeff Hardy.
I started my year-long hiatus because I brought a Marilyn Manson last time, and I now have to serve exile, so I'm allowed back, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, Brooklyn and I looked at each other. We spun a wheel, and the wheel said yes. So
Yes.
I've served my exile. I paid my dues. Everybody, they allowed me to.
Well, we'll see. What did you bring to the table today?
I decided to not go controversial again, so we'll go with I went with "Sing the Sorrow" by AFI.
Brooklyn, what did you bring today?
I chose Chaos, and I went with System of a Down with Hypnotize.
Was not expecting that when you dropped that. And I brought an album that's absolutely the least well-known of all these albums by a band that no one's probably ever heard of. But it's the album Casualties of Cool by the act Casualties of Cool, which I'll break down a little bit more of when we get to that. But first, we're getting to the album that you, the people, chose for our conversation this month, and that would be Violator by Depeche Mode, the classic album of the month. So Depeche Mode is a band that I know a lot of individual songs by, but I've never listened to an album as a whole by them. They're one of those bands that kind of have created a legacy almost. Like when you think Gothic dark wave, they tend to be the first band that pops into like the casual listener's mind, I would probably say. Even though if you ask anybody else, they're gonna get into the nitty gritty. Maybe like a Susie and the Banshees will pop up. But so having listened to this for the first time, I've heard legendary things about this album almost. And I will say the highs on this album are incredible. Songs like Halo, Personal Jesus, Enjoy the Silence are all fantastic songs. I think the production on this album is really great. Not quite like on the level of Hounds of Love or The Low End Theory, but it's up there in one of the better produced albums that I've heard for this show. I will say some songs hit Twilight levels of lyricism for me. Some songs, lyrically, great. For example, I would probably say, where's my notes? Policy of Truth. I think Blue Dress actually is kind of underrated in its lyrics. Halo is really well written. But then you get some songs like Sweetest Perfection and Clean that do get a little cringy. It does feel like personal diary of a 15-year-old who just wants to be noticed at school. That's not to say I think that this album is overall bad. I do think that the deluxe edition is better. I listened to the deluxe edition just to see if I was missing something. Dangerous, Mephisto, Siebling, if those were on the actual album, it would probably be getting a higher score for me. But that's a different story. Anyone else have what's everyone else's thoughts on this? Jump in whenever you want.
I mean, I would agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like, also, I had never just sat and listened to a full Depeche Mode album, like beginning to end. That was new, but knowing a lot of songs, obviously knowing Personal Jesus because of the Manson cover, and then later going back, like after the fact, listening to the original song.
Oh,
like,
God, we brought Manson back on the show.
Hey, man,
Hey.
full circle. There you go.
I didn't have to bring him up this time.
God damn it.
But I have really no like there's no song that I dislike. I like them all. I think some are better than others. But I like to disagree or to differ in the opinion. I like Clean. a lot. I like that it's like at the end, and he's like, we've done all this stuff. Here's where we are. Now I feel better. I don't really care if you do. Like, I'm good. And then you leave. And I think it's a nice way to top off the album.
Brooklyn, don't matter with me.
Yeah, so here's my thing. What did you call this, Andrew? Like dark new wave?
Dark wave.
Dark wave? I was calling it like
dark wave.
Yeah, I was calling it almost like industrial new wave. This is 1990, so there's a lot of that like clangy, like almost like not quite art Metallica where they're hitting like a beer keg with a baseball bat, but like kind of like the walking so that could run. This is not for me. There are some songs that I enjoy. Policy of Truth was really good. I liked Blue Dress. Waiting for the Night has its place. I think it's a good like halfway point for the album. And I like the dreariness of it and whatnot. It's that first half is like not the greatest. And I feel like it kind of makes the album a bit of a grind. I do like the opener. World in My Eyes is good. I think that is one of the better performances of David Gahan, the lead singer, David Gahan. But yeah, my rant is going to be about Personal Jesus, because I came into this being like, oh yeah, like this is a top 100 song. It's good. But this song is a victim of a couple good moments syndrome, where everybody remembers like the reach out and touch me and that iconic riff, and then like your own personal Jesus. But then you get to the verses and I'm like, I'm bored. I don't like the verses at all. And especially like when you go back and they're like, and they repeat that they repeat the verse basically. So it's like, what are we doing? We have a good song.
That's a lot of the songs on this album, though.
I understand, but like this gets talked up immensely. Talking about covers as well. We can talk about Johnny Cash's cover of Personal Jesus. But yeah, that was my big thing coming out of this. I was like, man, given everything else on this album, Personal Jesus is not what everyone thinks it is.
I do want to say real fast before we get to Jeff.
Oh, you're good.
Something I forgot to mention is like the instrumentation on this album. Like, I think musically, this album, like the instrumentation of it is stronger than like the melodies and the vocals.
I'll give you that.
Because there are some moments where Dave's voice is willowy in a way that does kind of hinder the rest of the song. Sometimes it works fantastically. Other times it really does hold the album back. But Jeff, what did you think of this album?
So this was an album I got a long time ago from my uncle, because he was a DJ. So we used to get all the CDs I used to keep from his days spinning. And this was one I remember having, didn't listen to it a ton, but I knew like the songs from it. Like I knew like the big singles, obviously, like Enjoy the Silence, Personal Jesus, World in My Eyes. Like World in My Eyes to me is probably like one of my favorites from them. But I will agree with Brooklyn. Personal Jesus is probably the weaker of like the big hits off this album. Like for me, like, yeah, the covers are kind of mostly known from it more than this one, I think. And that's where I feel like it kind of holds itself back in a way, because the covers, I think, do it a little bit more justice with that. But aside from that, like the album itself has like a very like haunting ambience to it, especially like on songs like Waiting for the Night and what was the other one? Even Blue Dress, but like Blue Dress to me, like we'll get in, let's say I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But
okay,
yeah,
I know where that's going.
Yeah, but overall, like I feel like the first half is better than the second half, and I think it, as soon as after Enjoy the Silence, I feel like it kind of takes a little bit of like a kind of a fillerish territory, kind of in a way where like, yeah, those lyrics kind of get a little on the cringy side, and it's kind of like, okay, you're now trying to sound like a little like Discount Cure in a way.
Yeah.
Which I mean, like the instrumentation weighs down the lyrics, and it's like it's almost like you're trying too hard to get back into that goth new wave from the mid to late 80s. It was like, because this came out in 90, so I mean, like at that point, it's like Nine Inch Nails already set the stage with Pretty Hate Machine. You know, it's like you're still trying to stay relevant with this sound, but the lyrics are really kind of holding it back in a way. So it's kind of like a tug of war in a way, but it doesn't diminish the final product in a way. I feel like you still get a solid album, but it's almost like you want to be really good, but there's still some things holding it back in a way. And I think the big thing is the lyrics at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would agree. I do highly recommend listening to some of the extra songs on the deluxe edition.
Dangerous is excellent. Excellent.
Dangerous is probably the best song aside from one other song on the actual album. And then Mephisto and Siebling are like these two beautiful instrumentational pieces. Like, I get why they're not on the album, but it would have made the album kind of better as a whole, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's really all I have for this one. That I will say they do kind of rely a lot on the AABB kind of rhyme scheme, and it never works. It almost never works when they do that.
Yeah.
No,
the only things that I wanted to say, and like particularly on Policy of Truth, you guys would understand because you're also of this time. Policy of Truth, that like the synth and like the fretless bass or whatever reminds me of like Sonic the Hedgehog. Like you're playing like that early 90s game and you're in like the kind of like the basement sewery kind of level as you're trekking through, and I'm like I'm here for all of this.
I never would have thought that, but now I can't unthink it.
Yeah. If you like this and you want to check out other things that they may have been influenced by, I hear a lot of Kraftwerk, particularly in the synth. And Kraftwerk is basically this, but with minimal vocals. It's really production and instrument heavy. So
Kraftwerk seems to be that band that like so many other bands were influenced by, but everyone in America is like
from a bunch of different genres too. Like Dr. Dre is like Kraftwerk is a big inspiration.
I may need to bring one of their albums on the show just so that I finally listen to one. Yeah. All right. So with that being said, let's get into scores, favorite and least favorite songs. I'll start us off with this one. I've been bouncing. So if you know me, you know that 8, like flat 8 is like the baseline for what I consider a great album. I've listened to this album 3 times now. It keeps bouncing back and forth between like an 8.1 and a 7.9. And at this moment in time, it's sitting at like a 7.9. It's like this close to being great, but there's like enough problems I have with it that I can't quite do it. My least favorite song on the album is Sweetest Perfection. That's the big one. Sweetest Perfection is the one that is like the biggest example of his vocals not working and holding the song back, as well as it just being like the cringiest of the lyrics. However, Enjoy the Silence, I think, is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard. Like, just the theme of the song itself and the way it's written, and that synth line is, I don't actually know if it's a synth line or if it's a guitar line. But either way, it's infectious. And it does the job really nicely. Let's go to Brooklyn next. I think, yes, you are muted, sir.
I am muted, sorry. I'm aware of how much noise my keyboard and my mouse makes. I try to if we're going off of first listens, this is getting like a 4. But giving it the second listen and knowing what I was getting into, I'm like, okay, this isn't like bad. It's just not for me. So it gets a 6. Because I do think that the peaks are worth it enough to check it out. I'm with you, Andrew, lockstep on both favorite and least favorite. Sweetest Perfection just kills any momentum that you build from World in My Eyes. And then my favorite is Enjoy the Silence, because it is kind of a perfect song. It has all those moments, especially like the words are very unnecessary. They can only do harm. What's going on in the production there, and the little bend in the chords and whatnot, and that riff as well, and like just something about the very like, it's like you picked horns on the keyboard, and that sound just fits with everything, in particular the drums and just the overall tempo of it. But yeah.
All right. Let's go to Jeremy next.
I'm right there with you guys. Like, my least favorite is also Sweetest Perfection. It's just kind of like you get such a good start, and then you're like, yeah. All right. And then you go, and then it comes back with Personal Seizures. You're like, oh, okay, you could have just went to that like in the first place. It would have been all right. But yeah, Enjoy the Silence. Like, I listened to it 3 times a day. Like, I was just kind of bouncing back through some stuff. And I was like, it's just so good. And it's just, I get it. Like, sometimes you just want to be left alone, and people won't leave you alone. And it's unfortunate when you have to partake in society, I guess. And you go back, but I would have given it a 7.5, I guess. Like, I like it a lot. I don't love it. Like, this era of music and genre is not my favorite, but I had no problem listening to this. I was not griping or complaining. And when the songs that I like are on, I really like them. And yeah, I got definitely listen to it again.
All right. And Jeff, let's close this out.
I was kind of with you, Andrew. Like, kind of like 8 is like kind of the baseline for me, like, is where it goes. And I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with it being an 8 out of a 10. Worst song, I kind of already thrown my cards. I mean, Sweetest Perfection is a real downer of a song. Like, it's just way too ambient, and then it just gets weird with the pickup. But I gotta go with Blue Dress as the worst song. It's just the lyrics are so creepy and bizarre, and it's just kind of just, it's like, this is just like, I feel kind of dirty in a way listening to this song. And then,
I think
like,
that's the point of the song, though, which is why I thought it kind of worked.
I mean, in a way, yeah, I get what they're going for, but in the same sense too. It's like even then, like, you got like that weird like stutter guitar effect on it, and it's just kind of like it just didn't do it for me. But best song, I mean, you gotta go with the opener, "World in My Eyes." I think it is just such an incredible way to start an album, and I will say this. It's not on Spotify or anything like that. The Cicada remix of this song, they used it in the trailer for Ready Player One, and I remember seeing it in the theater and thought it was so freaking good.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they put the one trailer for Ready Player One. They put the Cicada mix in it. It is so freaking good. It makes an already incredible song even better. So I highly recommend people listen to that.
All right. Well, Brooklyn, what does that bring us to for this album? And where does it compare to the other classic albums?
Average score of 7.35. So currently 17 out of 21, slightly better than Start Anew from Shad. Not quite as good as Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party. So funny that you mentioned other classic albums. Of this season, it is the worst rated one so far. Yeah, but I mean that's like by 0.2 of a difference. And because there's that Ego, and then the only other classic album would be Back to Black is number 10 right now, and that's at an 8.125.
Wow. All right. Well, with that, we're going to go to Jeff's album next. Why won't my computer let me switch people? There we go. All right, Jeff, tell us about Sing the Sorrow.
All right, so this kind of like the reason I picked this, it kind of stemmed from a conversation I had with people at work. One of my buddies, like, who's also real big into like the post-hardcore music scene, and we got talking about albums that kind of helped bring emo to the mainstream. Like, what was like that album that really kind of catapulted it into what it was. And he brought up the one album from Take It Back Sunday, I believe it was Tell All Your Friends, which good album, but I think it was the album after that that really helped them. I pointed to Sing the Sorrow by AFI because this was at this point like the fourth or fifth album in their cycle. They just got signed to a major label, so it was kind of like how can we amp up our sound? How can we not just be a typical punk band that's not going to sell? And the production value on this album showed it ramped up significantly, and it showed how much they grew lyrically. It started off, great with, Miseria Canter, having just this big epic sound and showing that they can still have like those quiet moments, but then these big grand moments too. Leaving Song Part 2 really really showcased a lot of like that hard energy. Silver and Cold, like one of like their like down tempo-ish, not necessarily a ballad, but also still having like that punk effect to it. Girls Not Gray, Dancing Through Sunday, all great songs like that get it going. The Leaving song having a nice ballad tempo. It's an album that has a lot of variety in terms of where a punk band can go, not just in terms of lyricism, but also scale too. And I think this kind of set the stage for bands like The Used and for My Chemical Romance and like a lot of these big name quote emo bands. And I think Sing the Sorrow kind of set the way. Like I think it kind of ran first, so a lot of these other big albums that came after that, they have to pay a little bit of respect to, I think. And when I mentioned it to my buddy at work, he was like, I think you're kind of right about that. He's like, Sing the Sorrow really did kind of run so that everybody else could start sprinting after that. So I feel, and even then, it was one of my favorite albums from like that middle school era too. So it's fun to talk about.
All right. Anyone want to start on this one, or do you want me to? Brooklyn, you were muted.
Brooklyn wants to, but he's muted again.
No, so I definitely had like bias or nostalgia, I guess you would say. Miss Murder was a big song, so his voice was pretty iconic. So going back to this was kind of a trip down memory lane. I like the kind of the pacing or the bend that this album kind of takes, where like the first half is like really kind of like thrash, or it's more upbeat. Then it does kind of slow down. I feel like they cement themselves in like the post-hardcore pop punky sort of roots. And then I think the last two tracks are kind of the calling card to come back to this album. In particular, This Time Imperfect is a great closer, a 10-minute epic that really like fleshes out, because I think like I think a fair criticism for this album is that some of the songs just kind of sound the same, and that by like I think it's like The Great Disappointment or Paper Airplanes, I kind of started to notice the run on it. And it's not egregious in length. 55 minutes, I think is fair. But like that first half is really strong. I like Miseria Cantar. The Leaving song part 2, I think I've heard it somewhere before. But yeah, like Silver and Cold, you're saying, Jeff, like that nice like 6/8 ballad. It has that nice sort of swing. The last thing that I'll say before I get to everyone else, there's a moment where these guys, they want to try something different. I forget if it's in Death of Seasons or The Great Disappointment, where there's like this like 10-second moment of them wanting to do like a trance almost, or it's like electronic heavy, and I was like, I'd be curious.
That's The Great Disappointment, because I think I know exactly what moment you're talking about.
Because I'm like, I'd be curious if you guys like fully committed to that pivot to see where this goes. But yeah, when we're looking at like I guess I went back and kind of just checked out these songs individually without the need of like the run of the album, and I'm like, individually these aren't bad, but I could definitely see if somebody was like, hey, these are a little long.
Jeremy, let's go to you next.
Yes, I was never like into this scene. Like it is very adjacent to everything that I've listened to for the last 20 years. Like it's right there. It's the next door neighbor. It's a little bit younger. Like their clothes, well, the pants are a little baggier. Some extra buckles.
They work at Hot Topic.
One of them definitely works at Hot Topic. Yes, so it's like I always saw it. Never really participated. I knew Girls Not Gray, I think from like Rock Band or Guitar Hero. Like that's like when I hear the song, I could almost visualize playing the game again. But I enjoyed this a lot more than I honestly expected to. Like I don't love the vocal style, like, and that's the thing that always pulls me out of like emo punk and stuff, is it just hits me kind of sideways. But I'm not hating on this. I really like Bleed Black a lot. I think it's a really cool song. I love the opening to is it Death of Seasons? Like the bass line, little bass riff opening, you just kind of build on it. That was pretty good. But I was surprised at how versatile they seem to be. Like you said, it's not just emo punk stuff. It changes. Like the album, like if you saw this, like just this album, like as a full live concert, it would be a well set up set list for a full show. Like so I thoroughly enjoyed my hour sitting here. Like I was like, oh, like I don't hate this like I thought I might. So I don't love all of it, big chunks of it. The great what is it? Miseria Cantari is a great opening. That was really good. Not big, and I don't like the leading song, but it's okay. Yeah, I'm more surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I was not looking. This was the one I was not looking forward to, and it surprised me. So yeah.
So there's a reason I try to go through every album at least twice. And sometimes it hurts like it did with Violator. Sometimes it helps, which it did with Sing the Sorrow. Hold on, Jeff. Don't get too excited.
Mean. You're mean.
I'm kind of gonna echo what Brooklyn said with what he said with Violator. Post-hardcore, post-grunge, emo, like that era, that scene has never been for me, unfortunately. There are elements that I respect. I like the theatricality of it. I like the fact that they were willing to experiment with like strings and piano to kind of create this kind of gothic atmosphere sometimes. Sometimes the vocals are really cool, but there's something about this style that while I respect it, it just doesn't quite work for me. And I wish that it did. But I didn't grow up with AFI. I didn't grow up with My Chemical Romance. I like that wasn't my scene. I will say the positives on this album. The piano and the strings are absolutely gorgeous on this album. The cello in particular. Whoever mic'd up that cello, ace, expert. The 3-song run from Girls Not Gray to The Great Disappointment is the highlight of the album. I think the melodies work on that. The instrumentation is interesting, and it captures your attention, especially The Great Disappointment, because that one tends to kind of be multi-pieced, multifaceted, multi-layered. But for a lot of these songs, a lot of them kind of just started to blend together and sound the same for me, as do most songs from this scene, to my ears. So while I can acknowledge that there are positives to this album, it's just an album that doesn't click with my sensibilities. So I'm going to just put it that way.
It's fair. It's fair criticism, so I'll give you that.
It's not a bad album. It's not going to get a negative review from me. As I said, that second listen through absolutely helped because it was sitting at a 5 when I first listened to it. I told you, not my style. But does anyone have any last thoughts on this album before we get into ratings and songs? Nope. All right. So Jeff, this is your baby.
I thought Brooke was trying to suck.
I need to learn the control D, the click the mic, because I just think that it's always on. No, I'm trying to find that I'm trying to find that moment in the album where it does kind of switch off for a second, and in that I was like, I got to talk about The Great Disappointment, and the chorus in particular, the send off of that. I love the drum work, and I feel like they're kind of like changing tempo for that chorus, or changing the beat at least. It's very satisfying for the ears. It's a really good refresher.
And one last thing, I think I'm going to disappoint somebody with my opinions on this. Hey, you know who you are. All right. So, Jeff, this is your baby. Give us your score, your favorite and your least favorite.
So score, I will admit, it's definitely not a perfect album. I think one of the big things holding it back is there's a lot of like just dragging on moments where it lingers on like chords or things like that, and it's just trying to pad runtime in a way. So I think that definitely holds it back in some ways. But this for me is still a solid 8.75. I think this is a solid album for sure, and I think it's definitely one people need to pay a lot more respect to, especially if you're into like that post-hardcore scene. The best song for me on this album is the song that my buddy introduced me to when he showed me this album, This Celluloid Dream. So he played me this song first, and I thought it was so friggin' good. I had to listen to the rest of it, and it's just an immediate like a crowd anthem, one people can easily sing along with. Weakest song on the album, I mean, I think I might have to go with just Paper Airplanes. Like it's kind of the one that is like it blends in probably like as like it sounds like samey compared to a lot of like the other like stuff we've heard before it, and it kind of just falls in between that like ether of like this didn't quite stand out near enough compared to some of the other songs. So it's usually one I tend to skip.
All right, Brooklyn, let's go to you next.
All right, this is getting a 7. This is good. I enjoyed it. I found it difficult to remember certain aspects of the majority of the songs. My least favorite is the Leaving song. I think the Leaving song, this Celluloid Dream and Paper Airplanes that's where I noticed that's where I noticed the length, and I'm kind of like, all right, let's get to But Home Is Nowhere. My favorite, and probably my top, I don't know if this is my favorite, but it's definitely been my earworm for the week. Dancing Through Sunday. That scratches the itch of post-hardcore. Like, we dance in Missouri and we dance on. And we dance on. I love it. That's like, I feel like Fall Out Boy listened to that, and I'm like, we can do something. We can do something with this sound.
Okay, Jeremy.
I'm going to give it like a 6.8, I guess, which like don't take the rating to mean much. Like this style of music is not ever going to break like a 10 probably for me. But I'm again very impressed. I was surprised at how versatile they are and how they get so many different styles and make it work together. My favorite song is Bleed Black. It's heavy. It's cool. It's fun. It's definitely the one more geared to me. Least favorite, I mean, I don't have any. I think there's a few you could probably just, if you're going to shorten up the album, you could just leave off. I'll also say the Leaving song just doesn't hit. Just kind of, I was like, oh, well, and I had to look back at it to see what it was called, because I was like, I almost missed the song while I was listening. I was like, okay, kind of started thinking about other things. I wasn't paying attention. So I'll just say that based on the not getting my attention.
Okay. I'm giving it a 6.3. I see the good elements in here. There are some things that hold it back for me, though. Man, a favorite's not easy for me here. I'm going with Girls Not Great. Because I think that there's just like a lot working for it. The melody is catchy for me. I do like his performance. What's the lead singer's name again? It's Davey Haddock. Havoc. Yeah, Davey Havoc. I think that this is probably one of the better songs that he sings on. I'm actually going to go with the reverse of Jeremy. I believe Black was my least favorite. It was the one that I thought was the most generic, to be honest with you. That's the one where I'm like, I feel like 7 other bands have probably made this exact song. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Brooklyn, where does that leave us?
It gives us an average score of 7.2125, so literally right in the middle of where we were last time. Violator is slightly better, not quite as good as Start Anew. Or sorry, but slightly better than Start Anew, not quite as good as Violator.
And considering that Violator is considered like a classic album,
and yeah,
that's not bad.
I would.
It won by like I forgot to mention it in the Violator section. It won by a landslide, and I think
the poll,
the biggest margin.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even like we didn't even wait the full voting period. Brooklyn and I looked at each other and went, "This isn't losing."
So I'm kind of worried because that many people voted for it, and our reviews are like, "It's not. It's good. It's not the best."
Yeah, but we've done that with other albums before.
True.
We've never gotten hate directly.
No, I did get that bird that one time.
All right, so we are going to move on to my album next. The album that absolutely nobody on this panel or watching this has probably ever heard of.
Hi.
Oh, interesting. Okay, we'll get to that. So Brooklyn was very well known last season for bringing on the Canadians to the series. Hi, guys. I also like Canadians in music. Please let me introduce you to Casualties of Cool, the side project of Devin Townsend, alongside Che Amy Dorval. Most people may know Devin Townsend for his hard rock and metal. And then he was like, I grew up listening to Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and Merle Haggerty. I'm going to make basically an ambient country metal rock prog album. And my God, what an ambitious an album. It's over an hour long. But the dichotomy between Devin's vocals and Che Amy Dorval's vocals works absolutely fantastically, I think. I think, and I mentioned this briefly on the last episode, there are 3 albums that we've talked about on this series that are like some of the greatest produced albums I've ever heard in my life. Hounds of Love by Kate Bush, Breakfast in America by Supertramp, The Low End Theory by A Tribe Called Quest, and I would put this particular album up there with those 3. This is one of the most gorgeously produced albums I've ever heard in my life. The way that he's able to blend all of those vocals towards the end, I'm blanking on which song that was. It was on The Bridge, where it becomes like this harmonious, like multi-vocal, almost like chamber choir metal kind of sound. It's absolutely incredible. There's a story behind this album too. And I mean the actual album. It is about a lost space traveler who lands on a sentient, fearsome planet through the voice of a siren. that is basically playing to his fears and his anxieties. And he finds an old radio and a phonograph, which basically helps him get through all of that and eject himself from this planet before it eats him alive. And the Jamie Durval plays the voice of the siren, playing up to his fears and anxieties. And I thought it was just a really brilliant move. Because there are songs like The Field, which is basically about sideline parents forcing their kids to play sports that they're not really good at or interested in playing, but they're playing through their parents' want of it. And it's like little things like that that I think are just absolutely fantastic about this album, as well as like there's like glitchy elements in Flight. What was the line? It was in Feed the Pigeons with My Collision. Little production elements like that really gave this album like a whole world and scale to it. I think that this is an incredible album. It does run a little too long, though. It's a little long in the tooth. It could have been maybe 55 minutes. But other than that, I think this is an incredible album. I wish that they had released another album. But I want to hear everyone else's thoughts on this.
I love this.
Yeah!
Full disclosure, I was probably just through Mountaintop, and I was like, I'm not listening to this correctly. So I had to go and chemically alter myself to the point of being how aware of how chemically altered I was, and I restarted the album. And I just sat there with my headphones on in the dark, full volume, and I probably it didn't occur to me for the next 45 50 minutes to even look at track listings to tell you what, like, to take notes. It's just a full-blown experience, and I appreciate it. I messaged one of my friends and I was like, hey, you need to listen to this. Like, this is for you. Like, I like this. Like, this might like change their life. I'm gonna find out tomorrow when I get to work.
Please let me know.
Yeah, and I was like, holy shit. It's so cool. It is such a good, and you said beautifully produced. It is beautiful. It's weird. It's super weird. And,
that's Devin Townsend for you. It's like, if you look at any of his albums, he is weird.
But I mean, but conceptually, it feels like it's from 1969. Like, this feels like, like you said, Spaceman, Weird Planet, Life is Odd. Like, it's so out of its time, but yeah, so brilliantly put together. And then we got to I did take a couple notes. The Code, and it just kicks in, and it just sounds like T-Rex, like, so much. And I love T-Rex, and it just like made me happy. And then I'm just in a good mood for the next few tracks. And then you get to Death Scope, and I thought my brain was going to collapse. I was like, this is terrifying. Like, it's so wild. So I personally, like, this is going to go like on a lot of these are going to get a lot of play, but it also felt like it's not something you can chop up. Like, this isn't an album you want to hit shuffle on. Like, I could hear, like, this made me want a record player. Like, I was like, I need this vinyl because I can hear.
But it's impossible to find. And I'm so mad about that.
But I could hear the cuts in the Spotify, like the tracks when they change, and I'm like, that shouldn't be there. Like, these little quarter-second gaps are like a problem. It just needs to be one fluid, like, from beginning to end. Don't move, don't leave, don't stop it. Love it.
Oh, you have no idea how happy that made me.
Jeff, do you mind if I go?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Oh man, Jeremy, I wish you were here. Hopefully, you're still hearing, because I got halfway through. I think it was Death Scope. It might have been The Bridge, and then I messaged Andrew, and I'm like, "This is the most shed album that you have ever submitted." And I agree with you, Jeremy. You need to get highly chemically altered, turn off all the lights, listen to this album start to finish. It is amazing in that sense. Right from the get-go, Daddy, I loved the idea of like this outlaw country Americana sound with like the eerie lyrics and the eerie production in general. I think it just fits something. I like the duality of like this like kind of easy listen beat behind it, but then there's something haunting behind it and whatnot. So that was great. Um we've already kind of done it at this point, but I was almost going to bring up the argument of like we should almost have like a spoiler warning, because what I loved about Death Scope and the bridge in particular is that like I didn't know those moments were coming. So when those did come, I was like, oh shit, like we're doing this. Like you said ambitious, this is absolutely ambitious. And I respect the hell out of it for this. Okay, sorry. One other thing that I do love, the code. The code is great. It reminds me a lot of the Doors. And like
if the Doors were good,
the Doors aren't bad. This everybody thinks that they're amazing, and that doesn't discount the fact that they are still good. They are not amazing. They are good. Now I have to get into my critique. The pacing of this, the pacing of this is just a bit all over the place. There are track arrangements that do not make sense. You have, without spoiling my favorite song, you have like instrumental piece, an amazing song, and then another instrumental piece right after that. And it's like, what are we doing? The first five tracks transitioned smoothly, and then I kind of lose interest in that middle section. Even
that's because Pier is the most ambient of the songs.
Yeah, like 10 is broken, and then it's like that's another instrumental, and it's only like 2 minutes. 10 is almost like you could almost like combine 10 11 into one, because 10 just kind of serves as an intro to that. Last thing that I will say, frogs. There are frogs in this. Frogs serve as a transition point in this, and I'm like, that is amazing. Didn't think we would be doing that on this show.
I forgot to mention the saxophone in Moon. Oh, crazy. Jeff.
Yeah, so you were like, yeah, nobody knows this album. Excuse me.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Excuse me. So I love Devin Townsend. I listen to his solo work a lot. Like I put him up there with like Steven Wilson, and like Porcupine Tree, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the funny thing was this album came out right before I got married. I was like, considering today is my anniversary, so it was like when I saw this was like released. Oh, thank you, everybody. This was like kind of like one of the last albums I listened to kind of as a bachelor in a way. So it was kind of fun to kind of go back to it in a way. And it was weird because it's like I hadn't revisited this album in a long time, probably since that, because I usually go back to Devin's other stuff. And I'm glad I went back to it because I forgot how good this album really was, because first of all, you have to acknowledge J. Amy Dorval's vocals. They are so freaking good on this album. And it's like, we need more of this for sure. And having her balance off of Devin, they create a really good dynamic, where they are telling that grander story. This is a concept album at the end of the day. So I love the story they paint, especially on songs like, what did I have it at? I'm already losing my notes, but you know what? I'll go straight. Yeah. Daddy was like a great opener. Just a fun vibe. Mountaintop was where it's like, okay, we're starting to see like some of like those like post rock Devin Townsend elements starting to peek its way through, and then you get it on Flight, and it's like, yeah, here we go. Now we're really starting to go. The Code. I love that like 12-bar blues take on it. Had a nice little shuffle to it. And then like probably by about Moon was where I kind of like it gets a little into like this experimental phase where it's like, okay, we're getting a little off track here. And then by the time Bones kicked around, I was like, yeah, this is probably the most Devin Townsiest song so far going into this. And it's like setting up this final act now. And Death Scope was like, yeah, this is like, we're now getting into like Devin Townsend territory. It's so layered, I was like, the ending kind of takes me out of a little bit. But yeah, then you get to the bridge. The bridge is just such an ethereal and just incredible song. It just keeps building upon itself more and more and more. It's like, how big can we get? And it's like, in some ways that can kill a song, but this didn't in any stretch of the imagination. And it's like, it was almost like a pure Nirvana moment. Like, it's like, this is the perfect ending to an album. Pure is, the technical closer, but the bridge is just, it's such an amazing song. But it proved that you can have these like bluesy country elements and infuse like those post-rock elements where it's not fighting with each other as much as you would think it would be. It balances really well and it complements each other really well. So I'm happy I went back to this album because it's been so long since I went back to it. And I'm happy I went back to it again because I need to listen to it more and more. So excellent pick. I love this album.
This has been like an album on the back burner for me for like the longest time. I've just been like waiting and waiting for like the perfect panel to bring
I'm
this
glad
to.
you did, man. Yeah.
I do want to bring up the lyrics of one song real fast because Devin's writing can sometimes be kind of obtuse. But on Bones, the chorus of "I built this road and this journey before you. These bones were men who all fell at my feet. And when you're tired and afraid, I will hold you, build you up just to tear you apart. This way, my child." Che Amy Dorval just sells the haunting quality of that so well. So with that being said, any last thoughts that anyone wants to talk about Brooklyn?
Che Amy Dorval reminded me a lot of Natalie Dawn from Pomplamoose, to the point where I thought it was Natalie Dawn.
Oh wow! Okay.
Until I looked it up. Also, since we're just continuing to talk with the bridge, because I think that we could almost make a video on that song itself. I want to hear Devin Townsend do scores for a film.
Same.
Because that song,
Absolutely.
It sounds like
Absolutely.
something. It sounded like something from Dune. Like that very grand, deserty, mildly post-apocalyptic space opera. Yeah, that'd be a perfect way to put it. But I was like, the film lovers in this community, I think in particular, would love the bridge.
Definitely.
I'm so mad. Go ahead.
Well, like what you're saying, like, yeah, like he should do scores. Like I said, this isn't one you can like chop up and bounce around with. It would be very strange to hit the jumble on this album. Like it'd be very odd. Could you imagine starting with Death Scope and then listening to the rest of like no
you're gonna be so confused.
I think that's
weird.
I think that's why they have the numbers though, because I looked at it and I'm like, did these guys think we're like 12 or like even younger, where it's like we need to number the tracks, but it's like this you need to listen to this in this order.
They're like chapters out of a book.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah, that's what I explain, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go into scores, favorites, and least favorites. It's definitely higher than a 9. I'm just trying to decide like what point value to give it, because it does run a little long in the tooth. There are some moments of that ambient quality that do kind of overstay its welcome ever so slightly. But when you combine the storytelling, the lyrics, the performances, and the production of this album, I think it would be hard pressed for me not to give this a 9.6. It's ambitious, but most of its ambitions hit the bullseye. And it doesn't really sound like a lot of other things now that I'm thinking about it. It's very unique. My least favorite song, oh God, I didn't even write one. But let's start with my favorite song. If you had asked me before starting this, it would have been Bones. Having listened to it again for the show, I actually started really thinking that Flight was the best song on this album. Just beautiful harmonies, excellent little production flourishes throughout, and Che Amy Dorval just sounds absolutely incredible on this song. My least favorite, I guess I'm gonna go with Peer, because that's the moment where I mean, like the ambient level is just overstaying its welcome a bit. Even though I still like the tone and the mood that it sets for the rest of the album. So let's go to Jeff next.
So this was one of those. It's like I kind of had to go back and forth on the rating a bit. You know, it's like where do I like fall in like that quarter range for it? But I think I'm gonna stick with a solid 8.25 on this one. So what I think holds the album back in a way is just kind of like the overall structure in some ways. Like some of the songs stay a little too long and overstay their welcome in some ways. And it's almost like you're trying to stay long for the sake of storytelling and setting the stage for something. And it's kind of like it can get a little thin at times. It's like, all right, like let's keep going. Like we're giving a good pace, but by no means is that like the main knock on the album that's going to completely tear it away, because you still have so many highs that it outweighs that. Best song, I'm with you. Flight is just an incredible song. I think as soon as Devin comes in and like that into like the final half of that song, and it takes that real ambient turn, it just becomes really ethereal, and it's just the harmonies really work. I thought that was like one of the biggest highlights of the album. I loved how it was, and I find myself going back to that song probably the most. Least favorite, Haida, I think is how you pronounce it. You know, Haida, whatever. It to me, it just felt like it was just more of an extended interlude rather than being like for it having a feature length song length. It just felt like more of an extended interlude rather than it being like a legit track. So for me, that was just kind of like the one where I was like, this is where it really kind of took me out a little bit. But overall, though, still, I mean, like it was still a great instrumentation, but it just, I feel like that was probably the weakest part of the album.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. That was the other one that I was kind of considering. Brooklyn.
So this is getting an 8.88. I was very torn. I'm like, this could be a 9. This could be an 8.5. I was like, how much is the pacing going to affect my score? Some, but not a lot. I think 8.88 is perfect given how bonkers and crazy this album can be at times. My least favorite, I'll get that out of the way for the Hezja, or I was gonna jokingly say an Outcast Hezda. Just why are we doing another instrumental when we just did one 2 tracks ago? My favorite, and it's my favorite of the albums that we've been talking about is Ether. Number 7. I love the dreaminess in the vocals from Che Amy Dorval, and the riff of the guitar. It kind of hints at what's coming later, because like this song wants to be a metal song. That riff sounds like something out of heavy metal. But it's disguised almost in this like ragtime sort of swing, like, hey, we'll keep on moving, we'll find a way home. And I really enjoyed that. Great selection, Andrew.
All right, Jeremy, close us off with this one.
I mean, if this was a movie and I just walked out of the movie theaters and I got on Letterboxd, it would be 5 stars. So it is 10.
Yes.
Like this is, it's so good. I don't have a least favorite. I guess the ending, because it ends. Like I disagree. Everybody says it goes too long. I disagree. It's 3 25-minute acts. Maybe if you some of the little instrumental stuff, if that's not what if that goes on a little too long for you, sorry, it's necessary. Every second is heard, everything is intentional, and everything works exactly the way it was intended to work. I would believe anyway. Like I've never had that, don't know of any interviews or anything where he's talked about this, have not looked at any of that kind of stuff, but I would assume they did exactly what they wanted to do. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate the suggestion. Like I love things like this, these kinds of discoveries. And yeah, I'm gonna listen to this at work tomorrow. Like I'm just gonna start it up again and again and again. And I think my favorite part though would be like going from Bones and then into Death Scope, where you descend into madness and you carry out that third act of the show. I love it. So,
Yeah. All right, Brooklyn, what does that bring us to? I finally have something that's like in the top 10.
Average score of 9.1825.
Woo!
Currently a top 3 album. Better than Let God Sort 'Em Out. Not quite as good as Never Too Much. But not even too far off in score there. That having a 9.35. 14th album of our show's history to get a score of 9 or better. So you get to join a pretty exclusive list that isn't the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Usually scores like that are reserved for like albums that everybody knows are great already. So
I think you had the perfect panel for this.
I'm so happy. All right, so we're gonna go to Jeremy next. Jeremy,
yeah,
come on, help us rock
All
out.
right. So 2003, we were all still kind of like in the post 9/11 hangover. If you were around then, like just kind of like it's just a funk. Like 2002 is just a drag. You're getting into the summer 2003, and MTV drops this insane music video with this insane riff, and then all of a sudden it's everywhere. When you got, I believe in a thing called love, and everybody learned about the darkness. And a lot of people were either like, "Oh, that's terrible, can't handle this," or if you were like me and my friend, I'm gonna give my friend Nick a shout out because he bought into it just as hard as I did. You ran out immediately, bought this CD, and you wanted to see what else was there. Because if that one music video was like, what kind of weird shit is going on behind the scenes? What else is there? And there's a lot. I like this because I love the tone, just that chunky guitar, but everybody does everything very well. The drums are great, the rhythms are great, the vocals are insane. It's so tongue in cheek, but there's not really any cheek. It's just all tongue. Like that's how I would describe this album. Like,
Holy shit, that was amazing.
There's no like they're not hiding anything. It is just concentrated British rock star energy and total honesty, and everybody's having a good time. For better or for worse, in real life consequences for some of the stuff. We'll get into that. But I love this album. It's never not good. I've probably listened to it 10 times this year before you sent me anything about being on the show. Like this is on my regular rotation anyway. And I was always been curious now to see what other people think about it.
Well, I have not been rocked in the face so hard since we talked about Shark Island with the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure soundtrack. I'm not even going to disguise the fact that I fucking loved this album. It started with like Black Shuck, where I was like, okay, this is good. Let's see how the rest of the album goes. Just like me and my brain being like, just wait till we get to I Believe in a Thing Called Love. Then we'll see where it goes. Then we get to Get Your Hands Off My Woman. And I was like, oh, this is what we're in. Okay, I'm in. Uh-huh. I'm in 100%. So like Justin Hawkins' voice, I can understand how some people would find it absolutely grating. But man, there's such a showmanship and a theatricality in his delivery, which I cannot help but get sucked into. When he's doing those like acrobatic vocal somersaults, essentially. And like, you're right, the chunky guitars throughout this entire album, just like the energy of this album is absolutely infectious. But then you also get songs like Holding My Own, Love on the Rocks with No Ice, where they can kind of like balance that kind of like arena rock, like ballad kind of style as well. There's obviously things like T-Rex and David Bowie influences in here. But the two that kind of caught me off guard that I was like, why do these songs sound like The Cars? And I'm also hearing like Boston in terms of like how they structure their songwriting. Yeah, this album is an absolute blast. And then sometimes you get really great lyrics on songs like Friday Night or Given Up. The hook on Given Up really threw me for a loop, and I loved it. Fuck yeah, Jeremy, this album rocks.
Jeff, you go next. Yeah.
All right, cool. British Steel Panther is what it reminds me of. This is British Steel Panther.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we all were there for I Believe in a Thing Called Love in that music video. I remember watching that because we used to watch music videos all the time before we'd go to school. And I remember we watched this, and with your parents sitting right there, that was an interesting time. I just remember my dad sitting there going, he's like, what the hell happened to music?
Yes.
I know, and I was just
I don't like it, and what I thought was it isn't it anymore.
He's just sitting there going, he's like, what the hell's happening? He's like, you guys are a bunch of stupid idiots. So that was always fun. But yeah, this was always you always knew I Believe in a Thing Called Love, but I never knew much about the rest of the album, and it's like in a way I'm kind of like, yeah, I should explore it, but then I never did. Now I got to explore it. This was a frustrating album for me. Okay, well, no, that doesn't mean bad, but it doesn't mean good either, though. So, like I said, British Steel Panther. Good because, it's like you hear a lot of really good ideas here. You hear a lot of really good influences here, but then you kind of get into that where it's like the shtick can get kind of old in a way. It's like, are you a joke band or are you a serious band? And it's like, it's kind of a tug and war. It's like pick something, please, just so I can like make up my mind what it is. But what I love the most, is the guitar. For as a guitar player, the guitar in this album is just perfect. Like, Black Shuck, that riff alone there was really good. What was another one? Yeah, Love on the Rocks and No Ice had a really nice guitar. And yeah, like you definitely hear a lot of like those influences. I found myself on a lot of songs the other going, I'm like, okay, Growing on Me. That sounds like Summer '69 in a way. What was it? Stuck in a Row. I was like, this is Tie Your Mother Down from Queen, and Making Out. It's like, yep, this is AC/DC. It's like, and Friday Night. I'm like, that reminded me of Cheap Trick, a lot. So I was I was getting
that's why didn't I even think about Cheap Trick?
Yeah, like a lot of it. Like I'm sitting there, I'm going like, yeah, you sound like a lot of these bands, and like songs like, Love on the Rocks and No Ice. It's like when you have that overbearing falsetto, it's like it can get thin really quick. But this was done in a way that was really tasteful in a way, and it's like you need more of this. And it's like almost like that middle of the album. It's like, yeah, this is where we're getting into some of the good stuff right now. And I will just say it right now. Giving up, that I ruin all my veins by sticking that fucking shit into my arms. I nearly pissed myself when I heard that line because it was just so out of the blue, and I thought it was amazing. I was like, there's no better lyric in this entire show that will ever top that right now. I don't care what album is great, but that line cracked me up so hard. But albums like this, because it's like, I love a lot of what they're doing. And then some of it's like, but you need to kind of, it's like the overbearing falsetto can get really quick. It's like, okay, I'm getting a little tired of this. And it's like, then it's like it's like garbled, with the vocals. And it's like, what are you trying to say? I think you're just trying to be funny in a way, but in a sense, it's like, but you're not too. It's like, make up your mind in a way. And it's like, so I loved a lot of it, but there's also a lot of it that was real disjointed for me and kind of took me out of it. But it is still a good album. I think people definitely need to give this a listen, and just they're more than just I Believe in a Thing Called Love. There's a lot more to this band that people need to see.
And just because all of us have talked about the guitar so far, just want to throw it out there. Dan Hawkins is the guitar player, just so he gets some credit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, this is like. This is a great time. We dropped one out. Andrew, you had submitted, I believe, in a Thing Called Love.
I picked I Believe in a Thing Called Love for my first pick in the road trip.
In the road trip, yeah. that's definitely been on the mind the last little while. So when this album got submitted, I'm like, cool, we get to explore that, because that's one of my favorite things, is like being like, oh, I know an album for this song, let's see how it goes. And it's like, yeah, like kind of what everybody is out to saying. This is a pretty rock and rolly time. Black Shuck is like right out of AC/DC. Pretty straightforward riff. I can like see the crab walk that's happening during that riff of like Love on the Rocks with no ice, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Holding my own is a good closer. Remix. Stuck in a Rush. I like that. I think that's a good like litmus test for people that only know I Believe in a Thing Called Love. Is like go to that one. And I think it kind of has similar energy. I will echo though what Jeff was saying, and the vocalist that I compare, it was a Justin Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me a lot of Joshua Ramsey from Marianas Trench.
Ooh, I see that.
My problem is that when you have that falsetto and you start with it right out of the gate on a song, it kind of like caps you at where you can go for the rest of it. And unless you have that like nice lower register that can catch people off guard, that's where it's like, it's a tough sell. And I say this like Justin Hawkins has an incredible voice. We were talking about it on Draft One Out. Like, you can sing the song, but nobody can replicate the performance in pretty much any of these songs. We were talking about Love Is Only a Feeling. Andrew and I were talking earlier that it does sound similar to like Bossa and whatnot. I popped it on again over the weekend, and it reminded me actually of like that like essential pop punk. So I've been calling it like Sugar We're Going Down, Check Yes Juliet, like that sort of like, it just kind of sound, it's in D. It has like the mini sort of breakdown in the chorus without really having its own certain moment. But yeah, no, like this is a good old like driving down the highway rock and roll sort of time.
I would say we'll go back to what Jeff said, British Steel Panther. Like, I want to argue against that a little bit. Like, Steel Panther is like comedy for the sake of comedy. It's over the top, hard R-rated, dirty. Definitely. I think there's a lot more. It's more of a like comedy is like a defense mechanism part of it. Like, you're using it to cover up like the real shit that's going on. Because like Giving Up, like he's telling you how much he loves heroin, and also how much it's ruining his life, which was very, very real. Yeah, but it's still funny and clever. Yeah, and it rocks, and it's just so. It's so British, though. You're right. Like it's just so English. Like it's never full blown aggressive like verbiage. It is very cheeky, like I said, but without the cheek. It's all tongue. Like these guys just crush it. And I had so much fun.
Like I said, it's
my
not...
buddy. I gave him the shout out, but when we used to party when we were too young to be partying, me and my buddy Nick would wait until everybody else had a good buzz on, and then we would hijack the stereo. And this would go in, and we would fill up like squirt guns, like super soakers, and we would stand in front of the stereo and be like, "All right, you can come try to change it if you want, but we're gonna like you're not. It's not gonna go well for you." Oh like God. We love it so much. This amazing. And you talk about all the different bands that it reminds you of. I think that's part of why they didn't really last, besides the personal issues with some of the members of the band. It's just they didn't have that sound that's them, but that wasn't the falsetto. But they're so good at just concentrating all of rock and roll into just 4 or 5 dudes, and hitting it perfectly when they did it. And so that's all I have.
All right. Any last thoughts on this one before we wrap it up?
They did a Christmas song on the one deluxe that was released like afterwards. That Christmas song's amazing. I gotta tell people, I forget what it's called. That was like, I think it's something with like bells or whatever it's called.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, they do a Christmas song. It does not disappoint.
I have a headcanon for this album. I was looking at the track titles and I was like, Permission to Land. There's a world where like there's a world where this album is called Permission to Love, but it sounds like something like Brian Griffin would write in Family Guy. Whereas like I want to hear that album.
My last thought is Justin Hawkins does a song with De La Soul on their album, The Anonymous Nobody, called The Lord Intended. Banger. I never thought that Justin Hawkins and De La Soul would be a mix that would work, but check that one out. All right, so Jeremy, you brought the album to the table. You start us off. Score, favorite, least favorite.
Score, it's 11. I know you guys stopped at 10, but I mean, for the sake of what this is, I'm going to take it to 11. Do with your numbers what you will. My favorite is
I want to play in, but the office manager is like, gotta play by the rules.
It's hard to pick a favorite track. I mean, when you've got a song called "Growing on Me" that's obviously about his herpes and/or genital awards based on that he received while living the rock star lifestyle, like it's so funny and yet it's such a good song. But my favorite song is "Love on the Rocks and No Ice." Like the intro, like it built, and it's just so grimy and fun. And the vocal performance, I think, is the best of the album. Like I think it's really showcasing how good of a singer he really is, despite living in that wild range that nobody does. And I think my least favorite is Making Out, because it just kind of feels like it was tacked on at the end. Not because I don't like it. It just feels like we got to the end, and Hold My Own is a nice way to ease out of it. And then they're like, no, wait a minute, no, one more. We're still horny. Let's do one more. And then they just added one more. But it's a great song, and I love it. But if I had to pick one, that would be it.
Okay. I will go next. I am giving this a 9. I fucking love this album. I listened to this album 3 times in prep for the show. 2 of those times was when I was working out. Not gonna lie, and it slapped. I do think that the vocal flourishes can get a little grating. I think the production does sometimes work, and then other times it doesn't. And then there are some songs that are not quite as strong as some of the other ones, including my least favorite, which is actually Black Shuck. I think Black Shuck's fine. I thought it would, like, I first heard it and I was like, this is good. So is this what the rest of the album's going to be? And then Get Your Hands Off My Woman came on and I was like, nope, this is what the rest of the album's going to be. My favorite, I thought for sure it was going to be I Believe in a Thing Called Love. My favorite's Friday Night. I think the storytelling in that's great. I think the melody works. The instrumentation works. It's the best song on the album, in my opinion. Let's go to Jeff.
So even though I was like somewhat negative in a way, that still did not hold it back. This is still a very solid album. I think people definitely need to give it a listen. So this gets a flat 7 for me. I thought this was a solid album for everybody to definitely check out. A lot of good, the instrumentation alone is just what really sells this album for me. Best song, I'm with Andrew, Friday Night. I thought that was like one of like the highlights of this album, and I think really showed everybody's strengths. Great vocals, great songwriting. Just overall great song, and I feel like it should have gotten a lot more airplay compared to like Love on the Rocks and No Ice, which was the second single I know, but that's still a very solid song though. Very, very solid song. Worst, I think it was just probably Get Your Hands Off My Woman. I think it's probably like the one, it's like coming off a Black Shuck. I was like, yeah, like this is kind of like not the strongest one, but ultimately I feel like it definitely could be a little bit better, but a lot of highs, but there are some lows, but still very solid album. Give it a listen to everybody.
This is getting an 8 for me. This is like a good time. definitely need to listen to it if you are a child of the 2000s. I'm gonna echo what a lot of people have been saying. Least favorite is "Get Your Hands Off My Woman." That's the when I was talking about like if you start and that falsetto, there's not much to go from there. That's the example that I use. I get the humor, especially in the chorus. Like it's kind of a show off move to say motherfucker in that high of a register.
Uh,
I am going to be basic. My favorite is I Believe in a Thing Called Love. For the guitar work in particular, there aren't many times when I'm playing a rhythm section and I intend on hitting the bend of a certain song, and then when you get to that like down 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 down, like you have to hit that, otherwise else you're not playing I Believe in a Thing Called Love. The other part, like I love the riff or like kind of a counter melody that's going on with the guitar and the chorus. I think that kind of gives it some depth while he goes off. The pre-chorus as well, great thing to kind of to go back and listen for is the very faint kind of like echoes when he's going in like touching you, touching me. Just a great little detail to kind of give that moment some new life. But yeah, no, this has been this is really good. Score of 8.5. So currently number 10. Slightly better than Maybe You've Been Brainwashed to from the New Radicals. Not quite as good, In Case I Make It, from Will Wood.
Will Wood surviving in the top 10 longer than I would have expected.
Yeah.
So, Brooklyn, you're the last one. Close us out. Tell us more about your System of Down choice.
Okay, so a little history, I guess, for this album. This came out in 2005. This was one of two albums that System of Down put out. They put out Mesmerize first, then 6 months later, they put this out. They did the Lord of the Rings thing, though. They recorded these both at the same time. And they're one of four bands to ever have two albums be number one in the Billboard top 200 in the same year. Other ones being Beatles, Tupac, and DMX. What a wild list.
Let's go. You think it's a game? Huh?
Yeah.
I was going to guess CCR, but
Yeah. But no, Serge Tankian is a person that I have been scared to explore because I think without having done an official ranking, I think he's a top 20 vocalist. If we're talking about like singular moments, I love his cover of Like a Stone after Chris Cornell passes. I just think his voice is very rich and deep, but he's also we're talking about some batshit crazy things. He's batshit crazy. And the reason that I picked this album is because there has been a meme that has been going around the last year or so of a certain pie, a certain terracotta pie, a certain banana terracotta. So to the point where like they Serge Tankian was on mythical meals, and they give this to him as a surprise and are like, "This is amazing. Thank you very much for doing this." If you haven't watched that, then if you've watched an episode, then this information is not new to you. But for those of you that haven't, you can get your music news from this channel. First of all, thank you. Second of all, they
real quick, the episode it's called Last Meals.
Last Meals, sorry. Yes, Last Meals. That song in particular, Vicinity of Obscenity. They needed something to fill that riff. They needed like words or syllables. That's what they came up with, and they just had that as a filler. It stayed in there because the producer, who's fucking Rick Rubin of all people, like what a person to have on there. Yeah. He was like, this is my favorite song on the album because of how crazy it is compared to everything else. And there is some kind of like controlled chaos in this album. Attack, I love Attack, especially like the Jeff, correct me on this. I think it's rolling 16ths or the 30 seconds. They're very clearly hitting 4 beats in one note. So I think it's 30 seconds.
I'm trying to hear the part in my head.
Like,
I'm like,
we can attack.
it's almost like a galloping like triplets in a way. It's like,
it's a yeah. But yeah, this has a really good mix of things and whatnot. Lonely Day, I think, was the big single to come off of this, and that is very much like the stained Hooba Stank, like divorced dad rock song to come off of this. With it, I'm blanking on the other guy, the other lead vocalist on this.
Darren Malakian.
Darren Malakian, yes, because I did not realize that he was as prominent of a vocalist as he was on this. And that is kind of a deterrent because I think there is kind of like a perfect setting for those vocalists when he hits the high harmonies on these songs. I think that's when they're best. In particular in Dreaming, and I believe Tentative, Holy Mountains is another good one as well. I really like Ufig, in particular the drum section. That's kind of like if you're scared to check out this album, go listen to Ufig first, because I think it has moments of the seriousness and the silliness, like the dun 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 mini. But the drum work as well is just like, it's so crisp and clean. That you're just like, you're kind of, I love in songs when you kind of like pay attention to the drums first and then everything else kind of comes second. That's kind of tough to do in a song. But yeah, no, this is a really good time. And I'm curious what everyone else thinks.
Okay, I'll start. I really like this album. I think that it's a little inconsistent for me. That's like my biggest problem, honestly. It's got a great 1-2 punch of both an opener and a closer. Attack and Dreaming, and then Lonely Day and Soldier Side are like great songs, great bookends to the album. I really like Hypnotize, especially like the guitar line in that track. Then there are some songs that just don't quite work in the middle. I think the middle of the album is a little bit weak compared to the beginning and the end. But overall, I think it is a really great album. And I do think that the back and forth between the two vocalists is a really good dynamic between the two of them.
You can go for it, Jeremy. Go for
it. This is not my favorite System of a Down. Like, I like it. I remember Lonely Day was like played out. Like, it was a hit. And it was on all the time. Like you said, Hoobastank, like the reason, like it had that amount, like kind of airplay down here. So when I heard it, I was like, oh, right. And I was like, that is a good song. I don't ever need to hear it again. Like it just kind of brought that out. But it's also kind of off on its own. Like there's not, if you didn't know that was System of a Down and they just played it, like you wouldn't necessarily think that was System of a Down. It's just kind of weird.
It's also not the voice you're expecting from this band.
Yeah, it's one of the most un-System of a Down songs from System of a Down.
And but Darren, like you said, the great vocalist, like those two complement each other in a way similar. I would think like Alice in Chains. Like you talk about Jerry Cantrell being able, like his backings, like really add to that. Like System of a Down would not be what they are without the two layered vocals. But overall, like this is what happens when you weaponize ADHD. You get System of a Down, especially if Rick Rubin producing it. Like that guy knows exactly how to do exactly what everybody wants to do. Attack is great. I love Vicinity of Obscenity. Like the banana terracotta pie, this insane 3-minute vocal exercise that they decided to turn into a song or whatever they did, however they got to that point, whatever it is. I don't know, but I'm glad they recorded it. Hypnotize, I like a lot, like you say, like Andrew said, like that, the guitar, just the flow of the song, like it's, I think, the best radio version of System of a Down, where you still getting System of a Down, like post Toxicity, anyway, I will say. Um, yeah, but it's still a lot of fun. I never want to hear Lonely Day ever again for the rest of my life. I'll be fine. Like, yeah, but I like it a lot.
So I had to laugh when you put this album in because it brought up a funny memory for me. So when this album came out, I remember it was like right around like Christmas, I think it was when I had money and I went down to my local FYE and I bought the album and I was so excited to listen to this when I came home. And I didn't have an iPod at the time. I had a like knockoff MP3 player. I think it was called like a Zen Micro, as it was what it was called. And yeah, haha, funny. I was too poor for an iPod. Leave me alone. It was in the 2000s. They were still expensive.
Yeah. SanDisk never die.
Yeah. So I go to put this album on my MP3 player, and it wouldn't go on because it was on a dual CD. And you couldn't rip the tracks off a dual CD to an MP3 player. So this album became something I hated because I only had to listen to it through certain parameters. And I was like, I didn't really have a CD player anymore. And it's like, I had to listen to it through my computer. And it's like, I was so pissed off with this album because of that. But it didn't, but I was like, I still need to listen to it. I need to be fair to it, and it's like, so now in today's standards, this is worlds better than Mesmerize. I was gonna say because it's essentially a double album between Mesmerize and Hypnotize. Mesmerize is a lot more disjointed, whereas this one's much better in terms of that. It is definitely not System's best though. I was gonna say, but because you can hear on a lot of this album why they went on that hiatus for what they did and when they all went on their own solo works. But there is still a lot of good stuff here where it's like you were on the cusp of doing something interesting after this this cycle in a way, and it could have been good to see where it would have went from there. Attack and Dream, good solid start to the album, like very typical System of what you would expect. Hypnotize is probably the most approachable System of a Down song without like scaring them into some of their crazier songs. I think Tentative should have been a single easily. I think that was one of their better songs from this album. Holy Mountains is incredible. Yep, Vicinity of Obscenity. That's just an incredible song too. Where the album does kind of get bogged down is it's just the overall structure. And again, there's not a ton of balance, and you can definitely hear where it's like Darren wants to be the lead, but no, Serge wants to be the lead, but then Darren wants to get back into it, and it's like there's a constant fight, and it's like you can tell that you guys were on the verge of quitting at this point, But I there was a lot of it musically that works really well, and I find myself going, I'm like, oh, UFIG, was definitely from like that Toxicity era or like Steal This Album era, and then I looked at what was it? Holy Mountains. I'm like, oh, this is the aerials of this album, and it's like I find myself going back to like comparing it, but in a sense too, it's like it's almost unfair in a way where you have to compare it to something else because this is a whole new era for them. But yeah, definitely not their best album. It's a very good album for sure. Once I was able to finally listen to it again, but
once you got past the trauma,
once I got past the stupid trauma, dual CDs, I'm glad they went away. But overall, yeah, this is definitely a good System of a Down album. Definitely not their best, but I don't know. It's a mixed album in a way.
Yeah. what was I going to say? Yeah, if we're just looking at like the at the streaming numbers for this, like now mind you, this is YouTube Music, so not Spotify. Lonely Day, 683 million listens. Hypnotize, 323. Nothing else is over 100 million listens. Like Soldier Side gets to like 70, and then like and everything else is like 50 million or less. So you definitely see where everybody kind of put their eggs within the basket for this.
All right. So Brooklyn, unless anyone has anything else to say. Brooklyn, this is your album. Give us your score and your song choices.
I was kind of tossing around scores. This was as high as a 9.2. This was as low as an 8. I think an 8.5 is there when you guys were like, this is not their strongest. And when Andrew was like, there's some stuff in the middle, I was going back and I'm like, yeah, like that's fair. Like Stealing Society and Tentative are ones that I think can kind of get lost in the mix at times. I will start off with my least favorite, and that is She's Like Heroin. I can understand that there's like a level of humor or something that I'm not getting within the first couple listens of the song, but it's like it reminded me of like Alice in Wonderland, kind of like the Mad Hatter, the way that he's sounding on this, it just really kind of off-putting at times. My favorite, I was torn. This was the hardest one to pick a favorite on. I'm gonna go with Holy Mountains. Because I really like the pre-chorus in it, like the strings, like the liar, I think that's Serge's best performance on the album. I would say there's a lot of sustain in some of the notes that he carries, and when people are like, what's a song that we can put on to showcase his talents, and I think that is one of the ones.
Okay, I'm going to go next. I'm also giving this an 8.5.
Hey.
Solid album, great. I'd venture to call it great even. My least favorite, I'm going to start with that, is Kill Rock and Roll. The goofiness kind of gets in the way for that one, in my opinion. My favorite, though, is Soldier Side, because my God, those lyrics are so cutting and they're so well written. That was the standout for me. Let's go to Jeremy next.
Listen to this. I caught myself wanting to skip songs a lot. I think you get spoiled with Toxicity and Steal This Album. Like I was ruined ahead of time. And like Jeff said, you could tell they're wanting to get away from each other. Like you can tell this is like, let's do this big thing and then let's go somewhere else. So I'm going to give it a 6.5. Like I don't enjoy a lot of it as far as just sitting and listening to it. My favorite song, though, is Vicinity of Obscenity. I like when System of a Down is absurd metal nonsense. I'm sure there's a point to it. I don't know what it is, but I would try a slice of banana terracotta pie. Terracotta pie. Yeah, I would definitely be on that. And then my least favorite is Lonely Day. It reminded me of how washed rock radio was in the mid 2000s, and it hurt my feelings.
That's the best. I love that. I've been back and forth on this score for this album because I'm but I think I'm going to lean towards the higher side. So I'm going to go 7.75 on this one. There's a lot to like with this album, but there's also a lot too that kind of holds it back from being one of their better albums, But Worst song for me, I'm gonna start with that one. She's Like Heroin. I like that to me. It's like it just gets so grating after a while, and I feel like the lyrics are just juvenile at that point, where it's kind of like it's like the way Darren's just kind of like projecting his vocals on that one. It's like, yeah, you're trying to be like over the top, and it's just not working for me. Favorite song on this one, I'd probably go Holy Mountains on this one. Like I mentioned it, I was like, yeah, this is like the Aerials of the album, and I liked Aerials. Aerials is a great song, but I mentioned like how it's like, yeah, you can tell like where they wanted to go after this album in a way, and this was kind of like the song for me where it's like you could see where you could have took that next step for having more of these layers to it, and not just being just fast, repetitive, and just like just craziness like this. You can have those elements, but still branch out a bit from that. And I think Holy Mountains was probably the best example of that.
All right, Brooklyn, where does that put this?
7.8125 for an average score. Maybe a little lower than I thought, but now that I know that I picked the incorrect System of a Down and I let the meme take over my mind, I now know where to go to. This is top 15 at the moment. Slightly better than Songs for a New Moon by Charles Kelly. Not quite as good as Girls Can Tell from Spoon.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so real quick, let's get the favorite albums in favorite album by from somebody else's pick, not yours. You know what I mean. We're an hour 45 into this. Brooklyn, how about you start us off?
I was going to be like a little toot my own horn and be like, my album I think is the best, and I was like, it's not. It's Casualties of Cool, big swing, big payoff.
All right, Jeremy, let's go to you next because I already have a feeling.
Yeah, you may just leave it up. Yeah, obviously,
yeah.
Cool. Like so much. I can't wait to listen to it again. Like I'm actually excited to hear it again. Like that's where I am with that. So.
That made me so happy. You have no idea. I'll go next. I'm going with Permission to Land. That song, that album just kicked ass for me. It really did. All right, Jeff.
Congratulations, Andrew. You're in the Hall of Fame. I'm
going
with Casualties. Cool. Like I said,
that's 2.
3 for 3. There you go.
Yeah, so you got it. Like I was just gonna say, because I thought I was gonna be next, and I was like, leave it up. Go ahead.
I knew once they both picked it, I was like, I'm gonna wait.
I already had it bold in the doc. You were, as soon as Jeremy was like Casualties Cool, I'm like, there's no way that Jeff's not going to.
What am I gonna pick? Freaking Depeche Mode?
Maybe, I don't know. People have picked the one that they haven't given the highest score to before.
What, do it out of spite? No.
All right. So, with that being said, real quick, our next episode. We haven't had him back since season 1, but we have Andy Merriweather coming back to the show, and he brought a friend, Mark Haas. Some people in this community might know him as Mark Moose Haas. So please join us for that episode where the albums will be Whiskey on a Sunday by Flogging Molly, Hopes and Fears by Keane, Us by Peter Gabriel, Outlandos d'Amour by The Police, and your choice, the audience pick, winning by 1 vote, Purple Rain, the soundtrack by Prince and the Revolution. Okay, didn't know that was up there.
Yeah.
But Jeremy, Jeff, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll absolutely have you guys back on at some point. Brooklyn, any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
No. Drive safely.
Keep on rocking. Bye, guys.